Welcome everyone to what's expected to be a very busy third round of the campaign for the EGT3 Challenge Pro campaign. My name's Justin Prince, alongside me in the booth tonight is Glenn Butt as we visit Circuit Zolder to see how things fare out in this early season race. Glenn, it's been an intriguing start to the campaign so far. Two very intriguing events, Suzuka bringing lots of fantastic racing last time out, but today is a whole new adventure to deal with the tight confines of Zolder.
Confines indeed. They go from a little bit more room to spread their wings to a lot more bumping and banging, and those chicanes, you got to be tricky through those chicanes. I've seen them go side by side, but it's not pretty, and it can get pretty rough on some of the drivers if they try to manipulate those chicanes. But you're right, a much tougher, tighter racetrack.
This built track in 1963 has had a lot of big-time races we'll get to in a bit. But it's been a big-time start for some when it comes to the championship standings, because plenty of intense racing has taken place in the opening round. We've talked about before Jonathan Bovine and his dominating pace. He has been talked about by some as an alien, and so far, entering today, has kept that alien pace up in the opening couple rounds, because despite having that weight penalty to deal with last time out, Glenn, he was still able to dominate the later stages at Suzuka after some mistakes. This is a look at some of the standings, though, for some of the fellow other classes, because it is Heze who is at the top of the standings for the Pro-Am side after his run, despite a penalty. Look at that, though. It's a three-way tie, in fact, for the 25 points.
And right down to the top five, only 2 points back from that first place tie, so it is super tight in Pro-Am.
That is Levikin second. Then you also have Matt Melanson, who is amongst those inside that top five. But look at the diversity of the manufacturers. You have an Aston Martin up there, two BMWs, a McLaren, and a Ferrari. That's been the consistency mark of the season so far after 2 rounds. And remember, that class at Suzuka had some unpredictable moments, it seemed, after some late race mistakes.
It did indeed. And then we have, even when you take a look at those top 3 in points, diverse finishes from the top of the chart to the bottom of the charts, basically from 1st to 17th and 11th. So they really have had a dynamic couple of first rounds, the top 3.
That's so much to think about when it comes to this respective class. If you're in this class grouping and know that, say you're around that 10th position, Frene is in 10th for respective marks, how would you be feeling is going to be the big question. How would you be feeling, though, if you were trailing behind the points leader by already more than 20 points? That's the case for Shentag and Bordeaux, who are second and third to the number 99 in his Lexus.
Perfect score, 2 first-place finishes, 25 points. You can't say anything more than that. That's maximized. But Van is just, like you said, the alien. And then you look at that 29 and 28 points, the difference there being a second and a 7th for Shentag, and an 8th and a 2nd for Bordeaux, making the difference of that 1 point. And I tell you, in these races, you have a lot of points to separate, 25 for first, and you've got a 9-point difference between first and third. So coming down to the checkered flag, boy, if it's a tight battle in the top 3, there can be a big gain by trying to make that move.
Alexis Moisson, remembers, had some good speed as well, 22 points so far. Then you have Alvarez rounding up the top 5 with 18. The first drivers in the class who have received penalties throughout the campaign for the respective incidents and track limits would be Mayer, who is in the 991 so far, 16 points, along with Landry, tied for 6th. You also have Racine, who is in the picture, 14 points to his name. You also have Bourdon with 9 in the standings, 13 points. Solomon rounding out the top 10. Keep in mind, the 991's top 6 on just the 1 start, by the way.
Exactly, and it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that penalty chart over the course of the 8-race season and see who has the consistency and maybe not score any penalty points throughout, because that could be a factor in the end as well. Right now, it's not for Plevan, it's just a perfect score for him.
Now that was a look and a discussion when it comes to our championship standings, but as mentioned, this track opened since 1963. hosts everything currently from FIA European Truck Racing to NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series action to the FIA ETCR to the 24 Hours of Zolder, and was at one time the home for the Belgian Grand Prix for a few years, as well as several other major events. This is not the easiest track, though, in the country of Belgium compared to Spa because, despite its 2.4 miles, 4 kilometers distance, these 10 corners can be very tricky to master for passes.
It's funny, you think of a 4-kilometer track being really not that bad a size of a racetrack, but this one being tight and those 3 chicanes along with the 2 long straights, it does make it a very interesting, challenging track.
Here's a look overboard and over top Circuit Zolder. Let's take a look at our track guide to learn more about today's race here in Belgium. That was a look at our track guide for Circuit Zolder. Thanks to our partners at Center Porsche Quebec. I'd also like to thank the partners CTCC and Story Equal for their support of the EGT3 Challenge Pro campaign. And qualifying is underway, and for the first time this season, it is raining. Oh boy, this should be intriguing here, Glenn, because wet weather racing, always a treat for those on the sim, especially since it takes a lot of work to execute for the developers in the first place.
Yeah, Justin, sim or real life racing, I think you can go back and say that classic saying when it comes to rain, the equalizer.
So when it comes to this track and turn, how do you try and approach it now, knowing it's much more wet compared to what you may handle in terms of your dry condition marks? How would you tackle that, and what have you seen done in the past in your racing experience?
Well, you know what, actually, just even watching these drivers in this qualifying session, they're not really avoiding too much of the real racing line. In the wet, you want to stay off of the normal racing line where the oil and the slickness is, because that comes up in the rain. But it seems like, with the exception perhaps maybe through corner 6, I saw the one car go a little on the wide side of corner 6. It looks like they're relatively on the normal racing line for the dry that they're using here in the wet.
Marc-Andre Melanson is currently at the top of the Pro-Am board. Pro-Am is underway for its qualifying. Jeff Collins now in the 10th position. 19 drivers in the class are on the track for qualifying.
Melanson picking up where he left off. Now, don't forget as well, which we can talk about, is the BOP that he has added, the extra 30 that he has on that car.
And that was a talking point, remember, that did impact the early stages in particular. Jonathan Bovine in particular. Here's the onboard Jonathan Beaudry. Meanwhile, his Bentley. Right now, the top time is now set by Landry in the class. Tommy Landry. 134s, and you can already see Beaudry picking up a lot of time in the middle sector here.
Yeah, he has indeed picked up a lot of time, and if you look at how they went across the chicane, there they are again. It's you want to be careful of that for a couple of reasons. First of all, especially in the first chicane, it's a really rough road on the second part of that chicane coming off of it and balancing the car out. And then, of course, with those rumble strips, there's always the concern of the paint getting a little bit more slick, but they don't seem to be having that issue on this track at this time.
Here's a look at the test racing machine, and you can see last time by Melanson. That time you seen last time by would have counted for the pole if he stayed within the track limits. Unfortunately, it does not appear that time did not count as we take a look towards Danique Valley, I should say, making his way around for third now on the board. 5/10 off the top of the charts for the class.
Yeah, just as we saw that, Boudre took over the top spot at a 134.730.
A lot of back and forth, and yes, indeed, that time we've seen at the bottom ticker starting to indeed popping on in and pop on in. Here's the Frene we talked about, as this is one of the tight sections I think we have to keep an eye on. This final corner, this is the Jackie X-Bomb, where so many times I've seen on so many sims, drivers try and outbrake each other in the past, Glenn, and it usually leads to a lot of contact. That could be one of the danger spots today. With the track guide, I noticed that had a big circle around it for passing opportunities.
Yeah, and also it's the entry point for the pit lane as well. So the other thing to keep in mind is the braking zone will be different between somebody entering the pit and somebody setting up for the corner.
Here's Melanson, meanwhile, back down to 5th. Some troubles for the 471 appears to have pulled off the track. That is Peze. As this time by 134.507, new top time in the session. Tommy Landry has been trading these times much of the session. Racing Supersonic coming out of the Johan right bump out of turn 10 with a chance to try and bounce back in the 917.
Little bit. See how he had just a little bit of a correction on the wheel there coming out of that chicane, but still a good run nonetheless for Landry coming across again and takes the top spot of 134.442.
It's like a tug of warfare right now for qualifying. You think one driver has been able to settle on in? Next driver tugs at the rope and says, "No, it's my pole now." As here's Clermont for Last But Relax, powered by RST. The thing I find funny about this team and its name is their cars are never in last, I will say. Usually. Clermont's in 6th, 7/10 off the pole. Does have some draft down the straightaway. We'll see if that helps. A 135 flat. Clermont actually jumps up to 4th. What?
Right, and he has obviously want to redeem himself. Had a DNF in the first round.
You don't want to end up struggling early on, because the tough thing, Glenn, I've noticed is if you can't get that momentum early on, it just seems to snowball, where you think, oh, I'm going to catch up in the back half, it's been done before. Then you end up spinning in the grass like that every single time out.
A little bit of fun for Thibaut as he gets that McLaren into the grass. And that's, a good point about qualifying and being it in the rain makes it even more tricky. But being a tight circuit, boy, qualifying can be the difference in getting around cars. You don't want to have too many cars to get around, so you don't want a bad qualifying time. You want to start up front on a tight racetrack because the passing is to be a little bit more limited.
OM qualifying coming to an end this time around. Jeff Collins amongst the last drivers who can set a time. That's why you see all the blue dots going on the pit lane. Those are all the pro drivers ready to start their sessions. Jay comes across, currently 5th on the board in the 134.8. Allie I'm keeping an eye on, I should say, currently in the 135s on the speed traps in the Aston Martin. Showed some decent pace so far this season in the one car. This time really takes the curbs hard to try and gain some speed for the final corners.
Sitting 9th, he's going to have a chance to see what we can do here.
As Looking like he's very much testing the track limits right now, Glenn. Just very close to cutting the course warning, if anything. Here's Melanson, who's been trading that pole time several times over. Landry has done his session. Can Melanson pull away for the pole? Yes, he can for the class. 134.197, 2/10 up to close out his qualifying.
Great run. Last lap, pulled it off.
And now it's time to hand the track over to the pro drivers. Now it's going to be curious to see who sets the top time here with the rainy conditions once more. This is trying to settle things on. Wow. Showing some great speed for Last But Relax, powered by RST this season. He's second in the line.
He will get a chance now to start the clock and see what we can get going here with the pro drivers.
Look as some of the other drivers get up to speed. This is Thomas Lavoie for Laps Racing. And you see him trying to actually find a little bit of a pocket, Glenn, to try and get some space for his first lap.
You know what? At first, when they came out of the pits, they were all in a good gaggle of cars there, and they stayed that way for quite a while, except for a few that were lagging back behind the rest of the pack. And I think you're right. You want to get that separation, try to get that lap in.
He's got himself some decent separation from the 7-Eleven as a result of that decision-making he has. See how his first lap is he's already bobbling a little bit in these corners with the damp track conditions you see on the top right corner of your screen. It's 18 degrees Celsius, air and track temp for reference, not a speck of wind to deal with, as here's Racine, currently 31st. That will quickly change though, as what a difference in corner speed compared to one of the championship favorites behind him.
Had some practice and now it's qualifying, but you still, some a little bit more apprehensive, some just love the rain, and it's a matter of, like you said, testing the limits and feeling the car and see what the conditions are like.
Here's a look.
Did I set up right?
Yes, exactly. And it's not just as simple as, oh, I'll just take my dry conditions setup, say if you are amongst those who know that knowledge, and say, let's run it on the damp racetrack or even a wet racetrack. That's kind of not how it works for some cases. You need to be prepared for anything.
No, that's right. I mean, when you're talking about the dry conditions, you might have a little bit more camber for, say, in the front end, which means the wheels tilted in towards the top, if you will. But when you want to, with the rain, you might want to take some of that camber out, get more of the tire on the contact patch of the track, so to speak, because that's where you obviously want the rubber to meet the road, and you need all you can get when it's raining. So that's just one of the things that might be changing. There's a whole gamut of things that could change as far as making the car a little bit softer in the rain conditions. This front sway bar, you might want to take some of that out, loosen it up, soften it up a little bit. There's just all kinds of different setup things. Obviously, spring rates, just all it can go on.
The reason on a lot of different sims that being able to know how to build a car is very much coveted for some. To the point where, in some series, the price for what drivers may be willing to pay in teams to get access to said data may be as much as the race victory perks. That's how rapidly important knowing that knowledge is. Here's Marc Anton Landry, I should say, currently in the 7-Eleven, looking to set one of his first at speed times. Alary is currently on the top of the board, but that is likely to change in the span of 10 minutes in the dark as 7-Eleven misses the braking mark a bit.
Missed it just enough. That's going to affect that lap time.
Already one of the drivers, it looks like, having to come to the pit lane. That's the 988 Alary, in fact, already pulling into the lane for a moment. His first qualifying laps. EGT Motorsport machine, though. This time around, we'll see what the speed time is. A 136.042. That is not quicker than just about anyone for the Pro-Am class. In fact, he only beats Strapanier in terms of those times. Expect a lot of the times, though, to bounce up the board, though, for the Pro class this time. First major flying laps for some this time.
Yeah, you got to see that that marker change up the leaderboard here in this qualifying session. And I believe I saw that it was Bilodeau at the top of the order right now. Or did he fall back down now? Yes, he has. He's fallen back down.
It's now Shente
to the top.
By 3/10, 133.3 so far. Here is the 3P Virtual Auto Sport Machine, the number 7. This is Jean-Francois Bilodeau.
So a couple of McLarens, followed by a couple of Ferraris, and a Lamborghini on the top 5 as it stands right now, as we follow Bilodeau.
He's having a nice solid run so far, and we'll say in this 3P Virtual Auto Sport Machine. Been a very quiet season, I will say, for this green machine. After all, he's looking to boogie. For those missing the joke, it says boogie for one of the sponsors over the tire.
I didn't think you were going to go there.
Let's boogie our way over to Guillaume Mador, meanwhile, and over to Mayer, in turn, for Manthe Racing. In this green and yellow machine, 15th in the session currently, 2 seconds off, but likely going to bump up this time in his Porsche.
Why wasn't he part of that exciting finish at Suzuka, finishing 3rd in that race? That was an exciting finish for sure with those drivers.
In the conversation for the victory, a 133.6, 3rd best. Shente still at the top of the board. And I'm looking at that data at the top of your screen, and we're seeing all these drivers peeling off and on. I'm wondering with the damp conditions if drivers are thinking, why not try the dry tires? Because in 30 minutes in sim time, it's going to be downpouring. After qualifying, yes, but the track may be starting to dry out a touch, maybe.
That's a possibility. That is indeed a possibility, because it didn't look like a whole lot of moisture out on the racetrack.
And there's the saying, right? The dry tires, obviously going to be much more quicker than the wet tires, or even for the damp condition tires. That could be the difference of maybe for some tracks, 5, 10, 15 seconds here.
If you're out there on a wet tire on a dry track and you watch the drivers, they're looking for those puddles of water to cool those tires down so they don't shred them off.
Amongst the drivers not towards the front, keep in mind, is Bovine, who has not really set a time since the early portion of the sessions. He's not even in the top 23 at the moment in the 99. Here's a look at Mador. He is still keeping on going in this qualifying session, mind you, in the 111.
Yeah, got that Lexus sitting 4th so far.
Potential of the strategy could be huge here, and the one thing I'm looking for the Rooster Tails. There is still a touch bit of them in some of the track sections, but not all of them. That's the critical thing. Who's going to take the gamble, if they can do so, is the biggest question.
Look at the spray coming off and then the shine on the track from those headlights.
That's still a little bit slick in some parts, yes. Down the front straightaway, not as bad. Still in the 133s for majority of the front runners. Here's Lavoie, who is 34th in the 135s.
Got a lot of pace to pick up, just a little bit over 3 seconds off the pole time right now.
Gonna take a wild guess and say the 99 has gone higher on up the board. In fact, to second, 4/10 off the pole with that heavy car. Here's Mador.
Yeah, back down, and we see him down to 5th. Was holding on to 4th for a moment there, but now he's now back up to 4th. Outside is
Lavoie once again. And you wonder if this is again down to the comfort level in these wetter conditions with the damp track even, because with the forecast showing there's a chance it's even more wet than this.
It's a gamble. Yep, and your setup. So again, we go back to that, right? Maybe some of these drivers might be gambling on or looking at the weather forecast, an even wetter racetrack for the race, and they gambled on their setup.
Is Landry once again, the Pro Class Landry for EGT3 Sport. Shockingly rough qualifying for him. 33rd best currently in the session.
be happy with that. A driver who looked at a third and a 15th place finish at the first 2 rounds, and seeing in the top 10 of the points, I don't think he's going to be happy with that.
Gonna be happy with that lap though. Yep. 7/10 off the pole, yes, but he's in the top 8. Keep in mind the top Pro-Am driver is still inside the top 10 on the track as we take a look at, this is David Susi.
Coming up on 3.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session.
Qualifying going off quickly, 20th best right there. Riley Shentag, meanwhile, he's been untouchable so far this qualifying event.
He has been. I mean, it's an excellent run, a 132.9. I think a real fast dry time would be in the high 126s for a pro driver.
Riley Shentag has been talked about as a driver with plenty of talent, and there's a reason he's someone that's always been in the front so far this season. And for a race like this, track position could be very much critical. Knowing the conditions, but also knowing the potential of the strategies, and knowing how some of the drivers may be in terms of how they handle the track conditions later on today in this round rather.
How it stands right now, McLaren's on the front row, Lexus occupying the second row. One of the things I'm thinking about here is the factor between the mid-engine, rear-engine cars and the front-engine cars, how that's going to play out in the race. If there's going to be a factor in the balance of the cars, if it is an even wetter racetrack.
Better time now for the pole, 132.5. That picks it up a little bit as St. Paul's we're now with, once again, 28th on the board. Who do you feel this track benefits the most in terms of that motor positioning based on your experience?
I think it's going to be the mid and rear engine cars.
How so?
I just think they've got. I just think their balance in the rain under the braking. They don't have that extra weight pushing the car off the end of the racetrack with that front end weight. I just have this feeling the mid engine cars may be the preferred balance.
Based on what we've seen, absolutely, for some of the drivers, that could be huge. By the way, Lavoie, he's had a huge progression since earlier. He was 27th entering that start-finish straight. He now exits the straightaway in the top 18 now. Here's a look now at 142. Colts Rushlow.
Yeah, holding his own, 23rd on the grid right now, just about a minute to go.
Yeah, it's crunch time if you want to try and make sure the track position. The best Pro-Am driver's been shuffled to 13th, by the way.
Yeah, under a minute with, again, McLaren having the bragging rights, holding down the front row still.
Yeah, Pavine still inside the top 3 as well. Some of the BMWs deep in the field still from the Pro class, inside the back half of the top 20, outside of it, in fact, for some. A little bit of a slide there for the 142. Nearly spins it out, coming up to the front straightaway this time out of Jackie Exbach. Still 22nd best, as here is your multiple-time champion for Advanced Sim Racing.
All right. Points leader. A perfect season so far. Carrying that extra 30 kilograms in this qualifying session. Interested to see what he can do with that Lexus.
To find 8/10 this time. This will be his final time around. Checker flag is waving in the session. About 10-15 drivers can still finish their laps. The 99 will be amongst the middle grouping of them. Will the Lexus be in qualifying after this one? He's been shuffled to 4th already. By Dubé, here comes Bovine. This time down to the checkered flag in qualifying. Second best. 3/10 off the pole, Shentag. Looking to try and get some insurance. Looking comfortable for another pole in his career in EGT3 Challenge Pro competition.
Yeah, here we go.
See right there. How about 6/10 up instead of 3?
And that's all we could do, is just see if he was going to improve on that time. He was already locked in there. Last couple of cars, I don't know. I don't think that anybody's going to have anything for him. I've been wrong before.
I think braking zones like this is also a telling sign. The lack of rooster tails now for the 432, showing just how much the track dried out. But look at the rain coming.
Oh, look at that.
How about second best, though, for the 432? Or along with a stellar closing to the qualifying session. Glenn, throwing conditions, throwing session, and now it's the matter of seeing how the drivers fare after dealing with a damp qualifying session for a majority of the time out.
Yeah, they had hats off. I didn't see too many. Maybe a couple drivers went off in that Pro-Am, but all in all, I think they handled the session quite well.
Especially...
Good speed.
Go ahead, yes.
No, just good speed, I think, throughout the grid.
I think so, too. And I found it really impressive, the drivers who were able to adapt, it seemed, to those conditions to know, okay, this is how I'm going to have to handle this here. And now it's going to be intriguing how they handle the race portion itself now, knowing what they just dealt with in qualifying alone. Here is a look at the session for the Pro-Am drivers. It was Melanson with the best time by 2/10 over Landry, Tommy Landry. Then it's DeWart, Beaudry, Claremont, Belanger, rounding at the top 6. Then you also have the Bidden on with Collins, Ballet, and Grenier rounding out the top 10. 1.1 seconds separating the top 10 in qualifying, Glenn.
Good run. That is a tight field, and again, track position at that start might be critical on this tight track, and if they have to deal with some torrential rain, could be real critical.
And the big thing is to mention, remember, Marchand at one point was looking comfortable at the first race of the season at Bathurst for the Pro-Am class lead. Then he had his incidents. It seems to have snowballed since now for the 14 car, because he is in the back half of the class now for the starting spots, 1.3 seconds back.
Go ahead.
Here's the overall standings, meanwhile. As you can see, it is Shentag, 132-282 on the pole. Then it is going to be Bourduhan, along with Levine, along with Bourdon. Kat Junis, Mayer, the top 6. Dupé rounding out the top 7 with Mador. Then you have Marc-Andre Landry. Then you also have Moisson in the top 10. About a similar difference compared to Pro-Am. But the big thing is, the top 12 are all Pro-Class drivers.
Yeah, very interesting how close the times were between the two groups.
Who's surprised?
That separation. Sorry, go ahead.
Who's surprised the most in qualifying, I will say, for this group in the top 20?
You know, that's a good question. I think I don't think I had a whole lot of surprises, to be honest.
Well, the drivers have gotten a welcome party to the sunshine, saying, you don't get any, it's all behind the clouds. You get to have a torrential rain pour for your third round of the season. Now it's basically wet conditions instead of just damp here, Glenn. What's going through the mind of the drivers now, knowing they're going to have to deal with a lot of rainy conditions this round?
A good start, don't spin the tires, and it's going to be an interesting run into that first corner because, again, track position, get what you can, but stay on the track.
I already see some of the drivers weeble-wobbling on the wheel columns on the grid here. And a plenty diverse manufacturer order outside the top 10. The top 10 itself, for several of the rows, are set up 2x2, it seems, with how things trended out to be towards the end of the qualifying session.
This is where we might see that equalizer, like we mentioned at the top of the qualifying session, even between the Pro and the Pro-Am drivers and cars. We could see more of a mix of the Pro-Am cars up into the Pro ranks, as it were.
So for you today, what would be your keys to victory, knowing there's a lot of different variables the drivers will have to deal with today? You already see some of the drivers popping in and out inside their own sims here for ACC. They're making these adjustments. What are your keys to victory here today?
to victory are nailing the setup, making sure you've got as much of a car under you that you can possibly get for traction, which means softening it up probably even more than it was for qualifying with this harder rain. I think staying alert, don't spin those tires coming off the corners. It's going to be an easy throttle, a nice squeeze throttle. You hammer that throttle pedal and you're going to go around. So do that, take it nice and easy. Braking as well, keep your braking nice and steady and consistent. Don't get all bundled up in a gaggle of cars at the start. Try to maintain a pace and just and hope for the best, because rain can be the real equalizer. And again, stay off of those curbs. We'll see what happens. Like in the qualifying, they were up over especially in the Pro-Am cars, they were up over those curbs, and it didn't seem to be a big factor for them.
Yeah, a lot of them seemed to just run over the sausage curbs like they were just window dressing, it seemed.
Exactly.
I don't know if you can get away with that so much in race trim with side-by-side battling, though.
This is what I'm really curious to see, how they handle that. Again, trying to go 2x2 through those chicanes. I've seen it done in the dry, and it can work, especially if you have the advantage on the inside coming off the chicane. But boy, it's trickier in the rain, because that inside car could just plow right into you.
Coming up to the last of the drivers you see as we go and finish our walk through the grid in terms of how your favorite drivers may be lined up for today. So now I get the signal for the rolling pace lap before they get going and pass on by today's flag marshal up at the starter stand. And it's only getting harder from here, the rain, by the way, because those sunnier conditions you've seen despite the clouds, they're already getting a little bit darker here. You can already see from up above how much the rain is starting to pile in. Some of it's starting to puddle up into sand traps.
Yeah, you're starting to, exactly what I just noticed too. The sand traps are getting moist. It's not going to be a dry race by no means, I think, throughout this entire duration.
And I'm noticing right there too, look along the edge of the start and finish line there. Puddles are starting to build up on the track surface, a touch bit itself, if anything. You don't want to hydroplane if it gets to that point where it gets massively wet out there.
Exactly. That's another point, a good point too, about the curbing as well, because if you don't want to get caught up in any of that puddling, and you might have to maybe not come out so wide just because of even if the car could handle it, but the puddling starts to form up, and you got to keep your eyes open on that.
Most of the drivers starting up their lights, and you already see for the first time this season the windshield wipers having to be fully utilized. You better hope the windshield wipers are able to help see things clearly. Already drivers are kicking up a lot of rooster tails, trying to get up to speed for the pace lap.
Place to be right now, the front row.
Look at how tough it could be there. You just seen a splash bit there. Oh, and one driver nearly running into another on the pace lap already.
This is one wet racetrack. There is obviously going to be a big challenge to coming into that first corner.
Now Shentag, he's already kicking the pace up on the pace lap already. This is one of the quicker pace laps we've seen this season. They're nearly plowing into each other, second on back still.
They be I guess probably just trying to challenge themselves on the track limits and the conditions. That's probably what we're up to right now, just seeing how far they can push it.
Here's a look right behind your race leader. This is from second, and this is just from one car alone. How much rain's getting kicked up. Look at the edges outside the windshield wiper.
Yep, he is. He's going to be on the outside of the front row. So at least for the front row drivers, it's going to be clear sailing into corner one, and let's just hope it doesn't go clear sailing off the end of the racetrack, because who wants to beat the other into the first corner?
You see now from the onboard, on the edge of the cone, I should say, the onboard look. If you're a cone thing,
most dangerous job in racing.
Being a traffic cone.
Just look at them up over the rumble strips there, just even the bounces. You know, you've got to be careful again in the wet, because you don't have that traction that you would have in the dry when you come down off of those. And now the car being maybe a little bit softer might give you a little bit more forgiving that.
About half a track to go here. Your final thoughts before we take the green flag for the first time here today, because it looks treacherous. Lots of good speed shown earlier, but this is a whole different type of race we're about to see compared to the others.
it's a ring race, but it's the third race in the series. And at first you think, oh, I got another round. But, we come up on the halfway point and start to get nervous about points. So this is one of those races, I think, where you're only the third one in, but it's going to start counting even more.
Drivers are doing sim racing things at the back of the top 10, but at the front of the field, Shentag is ready for a challenge. He's in control of the field as the green flag waits up at the stand here at Circuit Zolder. Round 3 of EGT3 Challenge Pro competition is all set to go. Green flag is out. We're underway from Zolder.
Shentag already gets us. Oh, that was a smart move. Just
contact! 3 wide. Leads to trouble. They're already crashing hard into the first corner. Into the Earth links. It's a massive stack up. 4 or 5 drivers scatter about. One stuck in the sand trap as the battle for second already heats up.
We talked about that first corner in the slick, but look at that. Is that Racine in second spot there?
A lot of shuffling already. Shentag still up towards the front of the field, but already Bovine up to second there. The teammate for Shentag looking to fight for third, though. The dive bomb, this time a decline chicane. And he cuts it.
Right across. That's again where they're talking about trying to go side by side through those chicanes.
A lot of contact for some of the drivers in the 20s you see right there for the first time under braking. No major spins, though, this time. Back single file they go as the 432 has been drop kicked to third.
Shentag had a great card and he's in control, and so far, I think that's exactly what he needed to do. Get out in front and control this pace.
Not the greatest of launches for some of the other drivers. Hard sim racing. Right on behind, shuffled all the way back to 6th position. Last but relax is still in the podium positions. Here's a look at that battle referred to. The 111 is amongst it. Make it 7-1-1. That is Marc-Antoine Landry, who is up a few spots, but at the end of the first lap, already pretty exciting for some in the heart of the pack. But most of the drivers trying to find a rhythm here in the rain.
Trying to find a rhythm, and there's a long way to go yet. And I've already had quite a bit of excitement here to get this race started.
See some of the drivers already really struggling, it seems, in the backdrop right there. You see one of the McLarens, for example, just really struggling, it seems, to get any proper rotation with how soaking wet the track is now.
Yeah, but there's, again, look at that. Coming off the corner, they're still up over the rumble strips. Seem to be handling things relatively well over the... See the air you come off that one chicane. You get a lot of air off there. You got to be careful coming down because that could really upset the car.
Especially in the run that takes them in turn 6 all the way to the Giovano chicane. We're heading towards turns 8, 9, and 10. Here's a look towards your Pro-Am leaders. 45 so far, trying to keep things nice and calm. This is Melazzo, who is still in the heart of the pack.
P2 is carrying the extra 30 kilograms from the win from Suzuka.
Here's a look at the replay, though, of what happened. Look at the heart of the pack. This is around 20th, where they just stack up like Legos.
Yeah, you saw that coming up further up the field, that one car there that was already backwards, and everybody just trying to come into there, had really nowhere to go with the car already pointed the wrong way.
The drivers just up the road from where we're looking at, already trying to break the draft. Others looking to bump their way to positions. That is for 9th. 77 Kat Junis amongst those trying to make some passes here early. How about a cross to the right this time to turn 2? That's not a normal passing spot.
Good try. Didn't quite get that one pulled off, though. It was a heck of a run.
You know, we ran over the car in front a couple times, it seemed, right there. 7-16 we now look towards meanwhile, towards the heart of the grouping still. This is Berto Alvarez, who is inside pack 3. Here's a look now at the timing pylon after a couple laps. As you can see, the rain not expected to let up at all throughout this entire run. In fact, there's the plus side after the 30-minute mark. I have a feeling that might mean more rains in the horizon. Here's Madorn for 6th. battling for 6th.
Yeah, and you can see that it's almost a 3-second advantage for Shedtag out front.
Here is Holtz Rushlow, meanwhile, battling for 17th. Of note, you see on the track map, a few drivers have had to take toes. One driver, the 77, Katjunas, has had a problem. And there is the problem right in the middle of the circuit. Wow.
Just getting bounced around through that chicane, and boy, that was a tough break.
Few drivers off the track, and now they're hitting each other for 16th. One driver wanted to enter the pit lane and nearly punted Holtz Rushlow off the track.
We talked about the difference in the braking zone, especially in the wet, from entering the pit to entering that chicane.
Especially since that pit lane entry is right in the heart of the braking zone, where some may try to keep it full throttle. Bit of contact there, but my goodness, what happened there? This is Katjunas. He collects 2 to 3 cars at least in front and just overran the corner.
Yep, just lost the back end coming into the braking zone.
And then they lost in the second group.
Huh.
Welcome to the rain at Zolder, everybody.
The other thing to keep in mind is with this pit is also the pit exit, because it pretty much brings you right into corner 2, and that means coming off carefully so you don't slide that car right out in front of somebody coming off in the wet.
Alvarez has had to put his car into the pit lane as a result of that big incident, by the way. Holtz Rushlow trying to bounce back after being bounced around already. He's 16th on circuit. Let's take a look at our replay, why don't we? And here's an look at the second part of the incident. This is Belay. 2 different drivers missed the braking zone behind, one better on the exits, but unfortunately, they didn't get to drive through him until the very end.
You know what? He was a victim there. He got punted from behind under the braking, and nothing he could do about that.
Let's put it this way. The driver behind it seemed got lucky that sim racing things happen, and 7th place just clocked the wall there. And 7th place may have a problem. You see, cutting off the circuit. Let's take a look at where Levite, meanwhile, all the way back at 21st.
Wow. Did you see the tail end of that braking advantage over that last car? I'm not sure who that was, but quite a bit of different braking advantage coming into that chicane.
For some of the drivers like Melanson, they seem to be very much more comfortable in these rainy conditions compared to some of the others. Clipping the grass you've seen in front was the 63. That is Cloutier, who is trying to defend the spot and does, barely. Usually the grass can be a danger spot on some sims. There, he's able to hold on to it with the texture of the grass, barely.
Andre Melanson just going to have to bide his time there.
The drivers not biding their time. Mador, who clocked the wall last time, makes the pass for 6th, bumping his driver to the left out of the way.
Oh, and just a little bit of tag on the quarter panel there.
And it's looking like a disastrous start right now for that McLaren in Bourdon. He's gone backwards. Just about every lap he's been passed by 1 or 2 cars.
And he comes into this round third in points, just 1 point back of second. So he wants to make sure he can maintain as much as he can and stay in that top 3 come the checkered flag.
That's all what we're seeing, trying to build up some speed behind in the Bentley. There's a teammate in the BMW as well. You have Dubé in the test racing machine inside the top 10 as well. His gold and black machine running the 135s currently in the midst of the traffic jam.
Looking at the track map, the 717, our leader Shentag, not really in jeopardy of coming up on lap traffic yet, and really all of the cars quite well grouped together to some degree. You know, down this section of the racetrack, if you look at the track map, the whole gaggle of cars still running close together.
Looks like some trouble for the 70, by the way. That is Dubé, who has gone off circuit and may have just found his way on circuit, losing at least 5 spots. Seen and company able to pull off and away. Dubé was 10th in the last scoring sector, by the way, for his mistake on the track map. Meanwhile, Melanson is up to 11th because of that mistake. He looks for 10th now. Trying the up and under, not going to get the speed he's looking for there.
Oh, he's not. Top 10 cars. Looking at our pro drivers.
And
it's been a good battle these last couple laps between these two.
Yeah, it has, and it definitely seems like Melanson has the long run pace in the car. He's running 136s, yes, but he's been trying to make a pass while all this has been going on. And they've closed up all the way to 7th spot overall on the racetrack. Melanson doing a great job getting a big-time buffer over Boulanger for the class lead.
And again, that's right. Like, this is not, this is for overall. This is not for class. The 63 pro class driver, Melanson, doing a great job. He's leading the Pro-Am division, but, you know, he still wants to get by. There's no doubt.
Good to have some insurance, right?
Absolutely.
Not about a peak there. Couldn't get the run. Bad corner exit for the 63. And there goes Cloutier out of the way. Melanson up inside the top 10.
If he just caught up, looking in his mirrors, or what happened there to him? Right through the chicane, he just, maybe the pressure from Melanson was just enough that it rattled him.
Was possibly the sausage curve, maybe?
Again, that's right, yeah.
He took it a little bit sharper to the right there that time. Cloutier drops back a few spots because of that. There's Racine, the battle for 7th still. Approaching 12 minutes in this time around for some of the drivers. Seems just trying to keep patient, it seems, right now. Has gotten a couple runs, but no major runs yet to make the jump ahead. The next car in front's already ran away, though, by, how about, 2.8 seconds.
Yeah, big gap. You notice that interesting to see that line that come off that final corner, come down the straight, and then shoot right across the racetrack, and quite an angle to set up for turn 1.
This seems to be the worst sector, I will say, for Baudon as he nearly gets dived underneath of. Seen. Tried to take a little peek again. Got slammed shot in his face once again as he kicks up some of the sand. Or what isn't packed together by the rain yet. Looking to the right side now, though, and the Bentley can't get there. Picture in picture. Now at the bottom of the corner of your screen, one of the air battles going on. That's the 75 amongst the fighting. That's 18th on track.
Good racing throughout the field here for sure.
And a lot of these teammates, it seems, a lot of the blue, green, and black machines showing some good adversity when it comes to some of this battling so far. Just hasn't, it seems all the cars, no offense to them, haven't been able to get the run yet.
Lots of time left, though, that's for sure. So there's plenty of time not to rush. Again, you don't want to make a mistake. You've got to be careful in the rain, and there's still lots of time. 47 minutes to go.
Plenty indeed to think about when it comes to these drivers. Now focusing the big picture in that battle for about 17th, 18th. One driver, I believe, just entered the pit lane, though. That may possibly be part strategy there. I believe that was the 241.
Yeah, I believe it was.
Yes, indeed it is. Who has gone on in. Who was in the heart of the pack. That was Jeff Collins, who was amongst some of this battling before.
Brought his Ferrari in. Again, we do have that one mandatory stop that they have to make.
Well, we've seen drivers attempt to make it on the pace lap. We've seen drivers go straight up at halfway, others go until the final laps and top off. But the preference. But it could be interesting how the strategy plays out, with the rain also being the major factor, and the traffic likely going to be a factor no matter what, because look at the map, there's not really a single hole to speak of.
No, exactly. And this is a great little race going on here. A couple of times you've seen Bourdon and Racine pull away from the two cars behind Moissan, but then they managed to pull it back up and make it a 4-car battle again.
Brandon still trying to battle it amongst these cars. Here's Riley Shente, who continues to dominate this overall race lead currently. The SOP/X, the Art of Car Machine. Looking very comfortable, it seems, in the clean space compared to the choo-choo train with his teammate.
Yeah, that's a great lead. I mean, 4 seconds. He has no pressure. Exactly ideal situation for Shente. But I just love watching this. Whoa, look, it looked inside. Through corner 2. Racine not able to pull it off. Lost a little bit of ground there, but, you know, again, it won't matter. It seems like he just picks it right back up again.
So meanwhile, as mentioned, he entered the choo-choo train a little bit ago. With some of all the battling, he is back within said train, looking for 9th overall on the track. Way too much curbing, though, nearly flipped the car towards the right side of the track, able to save it.
Good save, but boy, did he ever lose ground. But he doesn't care about that right now. He's got a big lead on second place in that class, so Melanson doing a great job, and wow, what a save.
So now he's lost some time to this grouping. We'll say this, amongst those who are to battle on Bourdon, I should say, is someone who works in business intelligence and analytics currently. The 31-year-old's goal this season was a top 10 in the championship. His favorite memories, mind you, in racing, just finishing on the podium. In Season 4, he was 4th overall in the standings with a win and 2 podiums. He still leads this pack.
Seeing again, you know, steps out ahead of Bourdon, but not able to make it work just yet. It could just be letting him know I'm here. I'm still here. Don't relax.
Back over to what is now the battle for second in the Pro-Am class. That is several seconds behind Melanson currently. This is Boulanger, who is battling with Debitten. Ends 44, very quiet so far this race, compared to the very loud battle we've seen here. 4 cones, by the way, in the sand. At least 2 of them have been thrown into the sand traps. I mean, look at the bright side. At least they're not the iRacing cones that are in the thousands in space, or that one that's in the middle of the track.
That's right.
I'm curious, though, if someone was to hit a cone that was in the middle of the track, would it cause trouble for a driver in ACC? Because in some sims, you can get them stuck in your car, and it can cost you time and damage.
I don't think any of them want to find out.
No.
No. Yeah, Racine continues to hold that same line, moving over across the racetrack to set up for corner 1 before Bourdon. And I'm just curious if that's going to play out towards the end. See, that time again. I just wonder if he's going to be setting him up for something later.
I almost wonder if he's trying to just use him to save fuel at this point. Or he can nearly ram him.
Yeah, well, why not, right? It's the rain. It wasn't me, it was the rain.
Sure. But I mean, that is a point to think about. You can save fuel if you're riding behind somebody, go a little bit early to the braking marks if you don't feel like you can fully pass, save some draft. Especially knowing how defensive the driver's getting in front of you. You can't just necessarily say, oh, we're stock cars now, let's move them.
The slower lap times in the rain, you're right, they are saving some fuel, so that fuel stop might not be as long as it needs to be because they've saved that much more fuel. Maybe they do come in and just do that minimum 1 liter requirement because they've saved enough fuel for the end of the race, so that could be a real telling tale.
Well, the pit stops in the later stages have been as quick as about 4 or 5 seconds. Splash and go scenario, Suzuka comes to mind with those shorter times. candidate for that, knowing the fact that this battle has cost them 6 seconds to Mador.
And we haven't seen, although we've seen a couple of cars dive off into the pits, we haven't seen any pit stops among the top of the leaderboard as it stands right now. All the way down through the field. Still have pit stops to make, and we are 40 minutes to go.
A lot of time, but now it's time for the pass maybe. Racine with his best run yet. He pushes him out of the way. Bourdon moves his way back to 7th. And now I think the nice gloves are gone.
That was a good try. Got to give him the credit for the try, but yep, just not enough there.
Oh, look at that. He forced the overbreak there. Racine is forced into a battle with Moisson, his teammate from that.
Yeah, Moisson got right up alongside of him, but I think he's going to give him the advantage going through the chicane.
And for the first time in a while, Bourdon gets a breather. Racine not going to be too happy with the door-to-door damage and contact, possibly. Lost about half a second from that. That will take a few laps to regroup after all that.
Be interesting to see how quickly he can regroup. Getting it back, tucked in behind the 715 McLaren.
He does have a teammate, mind you, as we mentioned, right on behind. How patient will Moisson be? We've seen not too many major moves. By the way, that let Melanson gain the 2 seconds he was trailing entering this lap. Just like that, we're back to square one.
Yeah.
Sometimes racing works that way, right?
Yeah, it does. And, you know, Melanson, again, this is bragging rights for overall position. He's got such a comfortable lead in the class, but you know darn well he wants to get those bragging rights and get up the leaderboard here if he can.
On board with the 715 meanwhile. Look, listen. You can just hear the pitter-patter of the raindrops on the racetrack. The constant sound.
I mean, I was watching the stability of Racine's car. It looked quite good through that part of the racetrack. I mean, look at how much he's able to close up already. You know, you got to say, if he could find a way by, I think he might leave him.
I think so too. In fact, all three of these drivers, I think, might be quicker than Bourdon. It's just a matter of opening the door and then everyone having the chance to walk through said door before it slams shut in their faces.
Qualifying and getting that track position on a tight racetrack, and not only a tight racetrack, but a wet, tight racetrack.
Be back on soon is the big question now with how this train has now extended from 7th all the way back to 10th again. You see the difference in the braking marks right there, for example. The Bentley's been very strong in the final corners. This has been the good sector for Racine this entire time.
Now, I'm just curious if these four are going to have a chance to catch Mador. I'm just looking at the interval between the two of them. And Mador's not that far ahead.
He's still 6-7 seconds or so, though. That's a long way up to try and reel on in. Gone again. Really checking them up right in this section in particular. That's been hurting their opportunity to make the pass down the back. There's that stability you're talked about with Racine again. Right on the back bumper again, but nowhere to take the run.
Got some great camera work through the chicane there.
It just shows the difference in terms of how much Racine is gaining. These hard braking zones. Racine seems to struggle a bit right here in terms of the time. How about a check up for Bourdon? Sure he doesn't hit the back bumper. You from now, this is the TV camera built in the back of the machine for the 715. There's that difference right there. The checkup, the better corner exit for the Bentley, nowhere to take the run.
Yeah, he always seems strong through this part of the racetrack, but...
Oh, he's going for it. And I think he's finally said, you know what, you want it so bad, take it.
Yeah, Bourdais didn't even try to challenge him.
Big block on Moisson still, though. Moisson cutting hard to the left there.
I thought Moisson was going to get him, but boy, you're right. Boy, did he put the block on him and make sure that at least he kept those teammates separated.
Now here comes the question. How do battles such as Dubé's and company now fare? Give a shout out to... well, Marshall. He's back up to 14. Here's the look, battling for 8th again. Look how big the advantage has gotten already. Scene is gone. He's half a second up already.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're saying, right? Bourdais was a little bit slower than those cars behind him. Now it's going to be Moisson's time to try to find his way by. Give it to Racine. He was patient, and he finally made that move.
Here's Moisson, who gives a love tap.
I'm still here. Just remember that.
Moisson wants to go. He goes to the right. Melanson watches in the popcorn seat. Moisson forced up to the outside, gets shuffled nearly off the track, and back into the line he goes. Here comes Melanson now for the battle for 9th overall.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have success on that outside attempt in the chicanes. You've got to have that inside line in the second part. He would have had it, but he just didn't have the traction in the rain.
Ferrari, though, has the traction. Doesn't have the run on the outside, though, again. So now it's a 3-car battle. 2 drivers trying to defend the positions in said battle. And Racine has gone by 2.2 seconds. And that's growing. Here is Moisson from the front end now as he focuses on the attack side. Big set for Bourdais on the brakes. Does he take too much curb? Yes, he does. Here comes Moisson. Moisson tries to cut to the right side. Moisson tries to cut again to the outside. Can't get there.
Couldn't get the power to the traction down through that corner 6, I think.
Nearly rammed into the back end of the McLaren twice in the same sector. This has to be frustrating, I will say, if you're 9th or 10th right now, knowing you've got a quick car, just nowhere to go to make the pass.
That's it. Throw a blanket over those 3. Melanson back in there.
At the rate they're going, you may have the chance to throw Cloutier back into the mix too for this grouping.
Indeed. 17 laps in the books for Shentag, coming up on the halfway point.
Very quick so far on these marks indeed for some of the drivers. For others, it's been a wrestling match just to finish inside the top 7. Bourdais again nearly goes wide off the circuit. Again going to the left this time is Moisson. Again he tries to find a way to pinch. He's nearly pushed off the track again with the quarter panel. Here comes the 45, Melanson, for 9th overall, rips it away.
Advantage on the inside. He took advantage of that move and got to the inside and pulled it off.
Best run for a Pro-Am driver of the season right now. How about a good 10 plus seconds over the next driver in his class? And has a chance to get as high as 8th right now, if he can find the way around the McLaren. Coming up towards halfway in this race as well. And that rain you see with the plus signals is going to get very much harder in the next 10 minutes time, if not less than that. Here comes Melanson now from the left side now. He outbrakes the McLaren. The test racing driver nearly pushed off the track.
Some trebles there on the braking. Look at that, right across the treble strips into the grass.
A big run this time, once again from Moisson. He gets the spot back. Good, they able to get that taken advantage of and quickly to get the spot back.
Moisan did a great job there, but this is one great race between these three drivers.
Absolutely wild. And we still have 30 minutes on the clock, mind you, coming up.
They are going to be spent when this one's over. They're going to be exhausted. Just the mental concentration to hang on to these cars in the rain. Never mind the battle.
When you want to get the run this time for any of these spots, here comes the onboard from Moisan. That Ferrari absolutely flooding that rear view camera in the back end of the BMW. When the Ferrari had a bad corner exit, that will cost Malone on some time. Moisan, he has to check up yet again this time for the braking zone.
See the back end step out just a tiny bit there on Baudon. Nothing to worry about for the driver, but just a little tiny bit of a step. Oh, look at this. Defending.
He's trying it again. Moisan. This is the same type of move that cost Malonson the position last time. Pass though this time. Remember, the cars coming on behind Dubé and Cloutier have swapped since then, but they are almost here again. So this could get a very busy train full of cars in a moment. Just at the other end of the start and finish line straight, they are losing up to 7/10 compared to their best laps right now with all this fighting.
Drivers behind, they are in sight now. They look in the rearview mirror, they can see them. We can see them on the camera. They're that much closer now.
Picked up 4/10 last time, Dubé on this fight. Moisan. Again, trying to peek on the outside. All over the back bumper of the McLaren yet again. Something's got to give here.
Pace is really, for their, as wet as their track is, the pace is phenomenal.
Here comes side by side. And there goes the give! Moisan gets punted off the track! He slides up onto the circuit! Moisan gets moved out of the way! Drive-through penalty for the 715!
That's a tough break, but boy, I mean, you saw that one. He just punted him.
They were side by side clearly there and just moved the 21 off the circuit. Bourdon's day goes upside down from that. Shentag, by the way, is in the midst of heavy traffic, just past halfway. He's been having a very calm day compared to his teammate.
Yes, indeed.
How about 5.5 seconds up in the rain?
I'll take it.
And let's take a look now in our replay of this. This is one of the more controversial moments of the season so far. After all this defending, all this battling, watch this run coming out of the corner.
Okay, so Moisan comes up alongside. Everybody's straight and narrow right there. Do you think he didn't see him? He was just coming across to set up for the corner?
They have the rear view camera though, right?
Right.
And in theory, we get the spot call as our producer has a panic attack. But the 715... drive-through, huge in the midst of the pit window, mind you. Drive-through has been served as we take a look at Jonathan Beaudry. We haven't talked too much about the battle for second in Pro-Am with the leader being so far up the road, but he's been one of those who did submit to providing some information to help learn more about him. He's a project leader, in fact. And his main sponsor is a media production company, Productions M2 Media. It's actually his first season in this campaign. Had 1 year of experience on another sim on a console controller, and only 1 year previously forced feedback on a wheel before joining the series last November.
Pretty much a green driver all around.
His favorite racing memory, mind you, qualifying to Pro-Am competition. That's how big it was for him to get in. Here's his class competitor, though, for the class lead. Lonson has been dominant, is an understatement right now.
He has. There's just no question about his dominance in this race in the rain.
just absolutely running away from the rest of his competitors in the class. And this has been the case, it seems, for Melanson when he's been in top form. When you let Melanson get some space to work, he'll use that space, he'll slow the track, and he'll run away and battle some of the pro drivers. Susie, meanwhile, looking to battle fellow class members in pro class. Cloutier, this is the battle for 11th now. First spot outside the top 10.
So far, we have a couple of mid-engine cars leading both the Pro and the Pro-Am. So I don't know if my prediction is going to hold true on that or not. But so far, so good.
I believe you have 30 years of experience, which helps there, correct?
Something like that. Good battle. Oh, looking to the inside, but again, into the chicanes. Not really the chance to do it there. But that was a good look.
Well, the cone's still staying in the middle of the racetrack there. No one's been willing to keep it side by side in that section. TA in turn, because of that back off, able to get himself some breathing room for the next couple laps, possibly under 25 minutes on the clock. Pit window expected to be wide open in the next little bit or so. Not one driver on a scheduled stop, it seems, outside of maybe Peze, has been willing to go in yet.
It's always interesting to try to figure out what the driver's pit stop strategy is going to be and how that will play out.
Moisan once again, we look the battle for 9th spot now. The driver who passed on by as a result of that was Dubé in class. We'll say test racing has been impressive because Dubé is a part of that camp as well as Alonso.
I think in the team standings, they come into this one 4th overall in the team standings.
Not bad for a lawyer to be inside the top 10 and 9th.
Well, do you want to litigate against him?
Moisan wants to litigate the position for 9th. Decides better of it in a hard braking zone. And to quickly touch upon Dubé and his experience. 10 years of sim racing experience on multiple sims before switching to ACC a couple years ago. Amongst those in his early experiences, how about Richard Burns Rally? That's a throwback.
Rally racing would be a little bit of it help when it comes to this slick racetrack.
Possibly. Here's Susie. Battle for 11.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about too with the team standings, the 3rd overall team coming into this round, both Pro-Am drivers, whereas the top 2, you've got a mix of a Pro and a Pro-Am driver, but the 3rd overall standings, and only a point I think it is out of the 2nd place in the team standings, are both Pro-Am drivers. That's a good run.
That's good chemistry, you'd have to say, possibly, for the team.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the huge thing, right? For some of the teams who may not have that representation, that's critical to be able to use that to showcase, I can do this in the future. Pro level, possibly, in terms of the team side. Looks like there has been a scheduled stop for the 99, by the way, hence why the green box for the scheduled stop. Line has taken that. That's why he's dropped the pylon. Going down. Susie, trying to go up. Can't do so yet.
And I don't think I've seen the marker move yet. I think he might still be on.
Drive through. Cloutier has had something just happen with his incidents. Cloutier may have just hit a limit of that. He's going to have to serve a drive-through.
Break.
And I think that has something to do possibly with how many times the drivers have been really utilizing the track limits here today.
And some of them might not be by purpose, just a slippery track.
And our contact. Yeah, it's gone in for the drive-through already. Here is Dubé once again.
And we do see more pit stop action as well. Our Pro-Am leader is in the pits.
Gentag amongst those, taking in the service now. Cordova also now keeping on going, in fact, on the racetrack. This goes on for him. Several of the elite groupings are coming in. Alonso, should say, for the Pro-Am lead on in. Luthier still finishing up his drive-through. Alonso coming out of the pit boxes a fair bit behind Bovine. Very quiet run for the 432, keep in mind. Today, it seems, compared to the more action-packed Suzuka race. He has found a friend, though. Mayer wants to take away his second spot.
He's not that far away from doing so. Interesting to see if how the pit in, pit out combination with the pit stop itself plays into the cycling when everybody does cycle through their pit stop. If we'll come back out in the same order, if there's going to be any changes in that regard.
Well, 19th on back have now completed their pit stops for reference, by the way. Malonson having a lengthier stop. Lost a lot of time compared to Pizet, who took the early stop call. Beaudry, meanwhile, still continues to fight. This is Tabinen, who is still in front. Tabinen, I should say. And did one of them come in? Yes, indeed. Tabinen, the Ottawa, Ontario-based driver, is in. There's Moisan, meanwhile. He wants his 8th place back. Will he get his wish? Not quite yet.
He's a man on a mission right now.
Grim coming on in, Moisan. Hungry. There's that back bumper for the position.
Did you see how much over the rumble strips he was this time by from what we've seen him before? He is definitely hungry.
He's been one of the better drivers in terms of utilizing those rumble strips, I will say. In that he's not afraid to use all 4 tires across the sausage curves and doesn't really snap out too much from it.
If you can manage to do so, that's perfect, because the ideal thing is to straighten up the corners. That's the idea of going fast, is straighten up the racetrack as much as you can.
Here's Bourdon, meanwhile. Remember, the drive-through was served, but he has not come in for the scheduled stop yet, hence why the 1 is still on the pylon there. What started off as a promising day turned into a very defensive day, turned into a nightmare in the rain. Now, it's going to be intriguing where he bounces back here. Still in the midst of this battle for position on track, but he is second to last in those yet to pit.
He's at a 4th and a 14th to start the season off, and sitting 16th right now. And again, going back to the fact that next round is the halfway point.
Oh, near contact. He cuts the course. 1 car nearly gets ran over. 2 more come into pit. What happened there?
That was bizarre.
I believe that was Grenier, who nearly got ran over in the entry. Once those coming in, Landry and company. Here is Mayer once again, the battle for second.
Yeah, that incident could have been, again, back to that factor of the braking points between pits and corner. Great battle for second overall, though. Look at this. Did we not see this last week?
Yes, we did.
The last race?
Yes, we did. They are still in the midst of that fighting with a bunch of traffic behind. That track's still expected to get even more wetter, possibly. Not letting up the rain at all here on the circuit. Lots of wheel movement, though. A lot of overcorrection there, and a lot of correcting and overturn to the right. Watch towards this exit right here from the left side of the bubble. Not too much this time. Took a lot more curb, though. Lost a little bit of time, a touch bit. And I almost feel like it's something you see a little bit in dirt racing, right? Where you have to slick down the straightaway. With how some of the puddles are faring out and having a cone in the middle of parts of the track, It almost seems like it's not so much trying to break draft at this rate for some, but just trying to find visibility and find grip.
Both of those, exactly right, Jeff, exactly right. Both of those, grip and visibility. When you're driving behind the car like that, well, you want to step out and see where you're going.
And right now, there it is right there, the difference. For example, Mayer cutting to the left side to get some visibility. Will he cut into the pit lane? No, he does not. Still stays within that range. They have a big cushion over Medora currently, about 12 seconds. Keep in mind, Vine is still expected to jump ahead of them possibly on the circuit, only 12 seconds back himself on circuit.
Yeah, exactly. The cycling through, we'll have to see where, if they can pick up some time maybe and get in and out ahead of Boy Van, but I highly doubt that will happen. I think we'll see them cycle through.
And first time possibly not with max points on the day if the trend continues. By the way, this battle is 19 seconds back of Shente, who has continued to just glide his way to the traffic.
He's been reading a book. There's been no problem for him whatsoever. He's just got it in hand. And give him all the credit. That is huge.
Speaking of huge, how about a huge stop and go for 30 seconds now for Claremont, you see on the board. 28th place, that's a couple spots behind this with Tommy Landry. So the 227's day has gone upside down now.
So are we not going to see Boy Van 3 in a row?
Unless there's a miracle. Or we see what happened last round with mistakes in the late stages at Suzuka. Remember,
Shenteg, yep, go ahead.
I was about to say Shenteg was in a comfortable spot there, then he went off the track.
And that's why this lead is so critical. I mean, it's 19 seconds now, but he's had no pressure. The only thing I can see happening to him now is a lapse of concentration or something happens with some lap traffic. And right now, we don't see the lapse of concentration being a factor with that lead.
Coming up to 13 minutes to go on the clock, in sim time approaching 1 p.m. Rain continues to downpour on here in Circuit Zolder.
Pretty consistent, and the track temp's been pretty much 27 the whole race, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a pretty consistent track.
Air temp has been fixed as well, it seems, at 22 degrees Celsius. Not a single variation of that. There's been not a touch of wind one bit during the race either. Imagine if it was raining and the wind was 30 kilometers per hour. How much fun the drivers would be having. Air quotes around fun.
Well, will these two peel off together? They didn't at Suzuki, if I'm not mistaken. I think we had Mir go off on the last lap, did he not?
Coming towards the final laps, yes. And I believe one of them may have peeled off, yes. Cordoba has come on into the pit lane. 432, so he has gone for the undercut compared to Mayer.
So spoke too soon.
See how far Mayer can push this tank. That leaves just a few drivers yet to take their service. Shenteg, Mayer, Medor, Racine, Dubé, Moisson, Susi, St. Renier, and Ordon are yet to take their scheduled pit stop in this race.
Looking to see if 432 is starting to move his marker.
Yes, he has. He's off.
Yep, he's off now.
Well, a significant bit behind Shenteg, so Mayer is currently going current P2. But you see, with the 432, here's the critical thing. Look at where it's cycling. Boivin is now in front of the 432 for what is currently fourth by a significant margin still.
11-minute mark. Boy, this is down to a sprint race now.
Here's Dubé, still dealing with the pressure from Moisan. And they have found a Bentley. And I believe that may possibly be Racine, might be wrong. We'll see. Nope, I'm not. They found Racine. Remember, Racine was up by 5+ seconds from some of these cars earlier.
It's a huge gap that closed up. Whoa, look at that. Whoa. Good save.
Moisan nearly finds his way to a mud patch as he's able to keep it on the pavement. And there he goes into the pit lane. He says, you know what? After that near scare, it's time for some fuel.
Catch my breath, get some fuel. Thank you very much.
10 minutes to go on the clock. We'll have some traffic to deal with. Or Dubé can nearly loop it. Starting a hydroplane on that exit. See now, at the tail end, there is a puddle on the bottom lane coming out of the first corner. I wonder if he hit that puddle.
I need to be careful. There has been no let-up whatsoever in this rain.
Here's David Susi, meanwhile. Can't to pit either. Just look at some of the snaking the drivers are having to do, trying to dance around the puddles.
Interesting, we haven't seen our leader for Pro-Am yet. Grenier, the 66 car, still has to make a stop, so we should see the 45 cycle back to the lead when that pit stop takes place.
Mayer has taken his service, but guess who he jumped ahead of? How about the 432 on track? Drive-through, by the way, for Fultz Rushlow. But the battle that was going on for a bit for what was second at the time has changed with Mayer going his way for what may potentially be for third. Of note, Mador has also come into the pit lane, this time by for his service. Blue flags pop up for the lap traffic ahead.
When do you think Shentag's going to bring his in?
Furthest we've seen before was around 3 laps to go last time out. Trying to really minimize the time of the pit lane, right?
Yeah, 32 laps in the books now, 8 minutes to go. Comfortable lead, there's no pressure there.
Based on the current tempo, looking at maybe 4, if not 5 estimated laps to go.
Godet had a look to the inside, and I tell you, these two are going to put on another great race by the looks of it here again.
They are still staying within range of the car in front of them as well. That is not for position, that is Susi, in fact, who is yet to take his pit stop with that battle going on with Dubé. Look from the outside of the car, from the lower corner, from the visor cam, the full screen.
You know what? I'm just looking at the gear selection there. Again, going back to the pace, like he was right up the 5th gear. He was moving.
He's picking up some distance, in fact, now. Gonna build up a buffer with the 432. Blue flags continue to be persistent as the battle for position, I don't think, has noticed the blue flags yet. But the leader is in. Shentag is in. And Shentag is rolling off and away. Look at the gap though with the 99, it has closed up significantly. They battle on through the corners right on behind them. Here comes the run with the lap traffic.
The flag waving again, but look at that. Where is it going to be here? He's wide, he's got the corner.
What I'm looking at though in that track map after what we just seen, Levine is now within a few seconds of the 717. Where did we see that story before? So let's look back from the outside of the battle going on for what looks to now be the third step of the podium. It appears it will be because Racine and Dubé are yet to pit in front of them, who are still battling, and then it's them. You know who's
Wow.
quietly gone into the conversation? How about the Pro Class Landry, who's only 3 seconds back of this too now?
Yeah, absolutely right. You just got to love these races, the way they unfold, and then the intensity down to the last few minutes.
I'm very intrigued on if that 99 can close up 2.8 seconds, though, I will say. Someone is way off in Narnia land, meanwhile. The 75 you see on the track map has visited a tire barrier. That is Susie, who has gone over the edge, and hello! That is 16th he nearly comes up on the track in front of.
Gave him plenty of room there, so good heads-up driving, getting back onto the racetrack.
That is Lafrene making contact with as some more cars finish up their pit stops. That's Dubé moving out of the way. Racine goes on another lap with 5 minutes to go. I think Mayer's just about got this right where he needs it to be. Right now, about 4/10 up. That is a very sizable cushion with the trends we've seen today. Take a look at the replay, meanwhile, as Susie just completed his pit stop, right? Looked very comfortable. In terms of positioning, comes up in front of Malonson, in fact. And then what happens in this part of the corner? Oh! What in the world?
Got a little love tap.
That is a more than love tap into the wall. But I'm not sure why the contact from Malonson. I believe no in sim penalty for that, by the way.
See any? Yeah, no, I didn't see any penalty at all for that. Clearly contact, though.
Malonson is the class leader still for Pro-Am, who has taken their stop. Venier is yet to take his service. The only driver in the class not to pit yet. Racine has not pit in the Pro class quite yet, per the scoring loops. Not likely to change, though.
A little over 3 minutes. That's gotta see Racine coming in soon.
At this point, yes. Here's Shentag, meanwhile, and at the end of that whole gaggle of traffic, by the way, is your second place driver who is gaining time despite being stuck behind 3 cars.
Did you see how high Shentag's car went up over the curbing? He is not letting up in spite of the advantage. He's still pushing.
Do you blame him, though, after how things have fared out so far?
Not at all.
Bovine stayed the same interval from last sector to that sector. 2.6 seconds. Now that'll circulate again. How about 2.4? He's gone by most of the traffic. Approaching 2.5 minutes to go. This could not be over yet.
Just saw a picture of his car coming through the corner there. This is
there's
far
trouble
over.
in front of them. This could get trouble. The 716 is coming back on the track in front of them. Will this impede the race leaders? Looks like the cars are rolling just in time as Malonson is still chugging along for test racing. He has taken back the Pro-Am lead by a sizable margin of about 4+ seconds, make it 9 seconds. The strategy call from the 471 did not work to pit very early.
They gave it the try. That's all you can say.
Melissa Racing Machine, currently 11th on circuit, second in class, one of the best runs of the season. Remember, though, great point totals entering the day. Pro-Am. Not enough, though, potentially hold on to the points lead after that tie on in. Racine has come in for the scheduled stop. All the drivers have now circulated further pit stops with 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock, expecting the white flag this time around. Shentag looking to keep the buffer now, has only 1 lap car between him and Bovine.
Like to bid it. That was in the 44 who stepped aside to let him through.
Indeed, 49-year-old. But down to the final minute, Can Shentag win his first race of the season?
Just getting past the 44, he only lost a couple of tenths in that process of getting by the lap car. He still got a 2.3-second lead, but again, anything can happen here. We're down to the final strokes here.
Down to 45 seconds.
Comfortable lead. You just saw a quick shot of the Boivin car. There he is. Just come through the corner now.
It's to close up. 135 flat last time by after dealing with some of the traffic. Shentag, as long as he doesn't make a mistake, is in a comfortable position. Only one lap car in front. That's the 888. It's clean sailing outside of that. Expecting the confirmation for the white flag lapping this time around here.
The thing is, he could probably see Boivin in his rearview mirrors now, so he's got to stay focused.
There it is. Clock hit zeros. White flag now waves officially. Expecting the checker this time by. What a drive for Shentag. His best drive of the season. Most consistent marks all day. And all campaign so far, Glenn. And he does it in the wet.
It's been a dominant drive as he works off corner 9 here. It's just been an absolute dominant drive.
Couple more corners to go for Riley Shentag. SOP and the Art of Car put on a Picasso-like performance in the rain. Shentag out of the final corner takes the checker flag. He wins the third round of the season at Circuit Zolder. Boivin finishes in second. Mayer, how about 19 seconds back right now for third? And he'll have to pass by some smoke puffs. Blue and green for the checkered. Heavy lap traffic around him. But he'll still take a podium regardless. Despite one race start down, he'll pick up valuable points with the podium. Cordoha and Landry rounding up the top 5. Mador, give him credit. He hit the wall with the right side tires at one point. He still has a 6th place run here, Glenn.
Great job bringing that Lexus back to the checkered flag in the top 10.
Moisan comes in behind him in 7th position. Meanwhile, we're seeing after his stretching of the gas tank in 8th. And it's Dubé. And how about the best run for a Pro-Am driver of the campaign? Melanson as high as 8th on track. Rounds out the top 10 for the Pro-Am victory. They get close. Not close enough. 11th on track, 2nd in class. Holding off a couple pro drivers. Lafrene, look at that, has quietly jumped up to 3rd in the class, his first podium of the season. The Vike at one point was in that position, but it's not how the cookie crumbles. What a day, Glenn. What a round. What a race.
Race, hats off to Shentag. Maximized the race from start to finish. Took all the points that he needed to get. Again, going into the halfway point coming up here. But Boivin, good run, 2nd place finish adds to that points lead.
And I'm curious how the momentum shifts now for some of the drivers into the next round. Your thoughts after 3 rounds of this season, especially seeing some intense battling the past 2.
Well, Spa's a fast track and a tricky track as well. And going back to that mentality of thinking at first, okay, first round's in the books. I didn't do so good. That's okay. I got 7 more to go. No, we're at the halfway point coming up to the next race.
With that, we'd like to thank you for tuning in for today's action here for EGT3 Challenge Pro competition. For my broadcast partner tonight, Glenn Buck, for the rest of our production crew, it's time to say so long. Congratulations to our race winners tonight. You've been watching tonight's action from Circuit Zolder. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening.
Olivier Sirois, Porsche Québec. Venez rouler pour vrai avec moi au volant d'une Porsche.